I have horrible insomnia. I'm scared to go to bed at night. I always have this recurring nightmare, no matter what I do. I'm in bed, and these two people come into my room. And say, do you want this to happen the easy way or the hard way?
Imagine being a teenager, struggling with your identity, your emotions, and your place in the world. Now imagine being sent away from home, away from your neighborhood, away from everyone you know, everyone you love, far, far away. No explanation or why you're leaving, only the promise that it will help. For 10 months, you may endure a complete upheaval of your life, sometimes harsh conditions, rigid, unfamiliar rules in an unfamiliar place. Often, treatment seems more like punishment. This is the reality for many young people sent to what's called congregate care facilities. The American Bar Association describes the troubled teen industry this way. It's a multi-billion-dollar network of private programs, including wilderness camps, therapeutic boarding schools, residential treatment facilities, all claiming to do one thing: fix troubled teens. But for many, these programs don't just fail, they can cause lasting harm, re-victimizing, re-traumatizing. Today on Put 'em on the Couch, we're taking a deep dive into this controversial industry, and you'll hear from Kelly, a young lady who was sent to a congregate care facility, a wilderness camp, as a teen, and we'll allow her to describe her story when we return. Stay tuned. You're not going to want to miss. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome Kelly Robertson to the show. Kelly, thank you for doing this.
Of course.
Kelly, does any of the way I describe congregate care resonate with you? What is it about the way I describe the treatment facilities in this troubled teen industry that reminded you of your experience?
Just being sent away in a program for 10 months and away from home, of course. I wasn't anywhere near my parents, and I wasn't able to see them for the first month. And then when I was, it would only be for a day, or eventually you work your way up to seeing them for longer, but it takes a long time.
Tell us your story, Kelly. You were a teenager. Would you say you were troubled, or?
I would say I was like most teenagers, especially in my environment. In Maryland, things are a lot different. People act differently. So that's just who I was surrounded by. I feel like I didn't act out of the ordinary compared to my friends and really anybody around. But eventually my parents just couldn't tolerate it. But they weren't from anywhere. My dad, he grew up here in North Carolina, my mom in New Jersey, Connecticut. So they just weren't used to that type of behavior, I guess.
Now, when you say that type of behavior, can you tell us some things that you were doing that maybe raised concerns or worries?
Well, I would steal my dad's car sometimes before I had my license.
Yeah.
Me and my mom, this might sound terrible, but we would smoke weed together. And I would do that with a lot of my friends, and my dad was very against weed. So if I wasn't with my mom, I was doing it at his house, and he would just go crazy. There was a time where I got jumped by a group of people. My dad didn't like that. I guess it was just like a bunch of different scenarios that were like adding up, and my dad just got over the mess and couldn't deal with it anymore.
So the facility that you were sent to, how did your dad find out about this facility?
They did a lot of research. I think my grandmother was praying about it and having some friends talk to her, and one of her friends actually found this place and told her this sounds like the best. And that's when my dad agreed to it, and he was like, all right, this is the one.
Now, do you know if this was a public or if this was a nonprofit, religious facility? Do you know?
It was definitely religious. I think private because the owners had their own property, and we paid for everything like monthly. So,
Now, were your parents religious as well?
yes.
Do you think that was part of the concern? They were worried about, your soul, perhaps, like worried about what God would think if you were to live the life you were living at that time?
I think so, but I think they were more just like, if they knew that God would be in the picture, that I would probably listen more.
I see.
Yeah.
I got you. So it was more like the facility was more trusted if it had something to do with God, if it was religiously inspired, right? They could trust the facility.
Yeah.
So walk me through, what happened? How did you find out that you were going there? Did they drop you off there? Did they pack you up and put you on a plane and get, and see you off? Like, how did that work?
So basically, I was living with a friend, and my stepmom asked to meet me for lunch, and I was like, okay. So I meet with her. She's like, me and your dad are talking about going to Wilmington to see your grandmother. We're going to go for the weekend, and I really think you should come. And I was like, you know what? I haven't hung out with my parents in a while. This might be a nice trip with them. And so I had just come back from Ocean City, Maryland with a friend, and they dropped me off at my dad's house. And as I'm like getting inside, my dad's like, you should probably get some sleep early because we're leaving like really early in the morning. And I didn't think anything of it, knowing that like I could sleep in the car. I wasn't the one driving.
Yeah.
So it was kind of weird, but I just went to bed because whatever. And then at 2 a.m., I remember my dad and my biological mom, she was like at the end of my bed. And they're both saying like, I love you, we're sorry.
And was this normal for your dad and your biological mom to be in the same house together?
No, not at all.
This was at your dad's house? Okay.
So I was just like, what's going on? And I like look at the doorway, and there's two people like dressed in all black, and they had the word transport on it. And so I'm like, what's going on? Like, why are these people in my room? And I'm like wearing my PJs, not even fully dressed. And they're like, we're going to take you away. And I was like, okay, like where are you taking me? I don't understand. They're like, we can't tell you where you're going. You can't bring any electronics. If you try to run, we're going to handcuff you. And you might not want to do that because we have a long drive ahead of us.
Did you think this was a joke?
Yeah.
Were you getting punked?
That's what I thought, because I was like, they're like something like they must be trying to scare me. This isn't real. And it was very much real. So
now, they give you time to pack anything, or you just?
No, I guess most of my stuff was at my friend's house, but whatever was there, I guess my dad like threw in a trash bag. But they came separately, probably like hours after I had already left, to bring more stuff for me. But and I guess they went shopping at Walmart to get stuff for me too. I got you. But,
so you take off with these two guys that you don't know. What was that like? What was I assume you took off in a van or something. Like, what was that ride like?
It was a car.
Okay.
But I was really scared because I was like, I don't know who these people are.
Right.
And I don't know where they're taking me. Since it was so late, I remember like them putting me in the car, and then I just like went to sleep because I was like, I cannot deal with this right now.
You were overwhelmed, right?
Yeah.
Traumatized.
Exactly. I probably woke up around like 11, and it was like daylight, and I was like, okay, we're not anywhere. Yeah. Couldn't like figure out signs because they were all just like random names. It didn't say a state or anything. So I was like, how much longer until we're there? And they're like, we can't disclose that information with you. And I'm just like, what is going on? So I go back to sleep because I was just like, no, I'm not doing this. And
you have no phone, I'm sure.
Yeah,
right?
no.
I have no way to contact or communicate with anyone.
Like, I wanted to bring my phone to even just listen to music.
Sure.
And they wouldn't let me. They just, were like, nope, you can't have anything. So I was like, okay, this is weird.
Did you feel like at that time you were being kidnapped?
Yeah. I mean, basically that's what it was, like illegally kidnapped. So it was just the only thing that like disassociated me from kidnapping was my parents were involved.
Right. You knew that somehow they're involved because you remember seeing them and hearing them, right?
Yeah.
Now, did you know if they were coming after you? Like did you know they were going to come?
No, not at all.
Right. So as far as you knew, these two guys were taking you to some undisclosed place, right, for some undisclosed amount of time. Did you think, oh my God, I may never come back? Or
yeah, no, as I was leaving the neighborhood, I was like, I'm never going to see this place again. Like, where am I going? Like, that's all that was in my head was, this is goodbye. Like, I'm never coming back to Maryland. Like, I really thought that was the end of it. I was terrified.
And what was that like, thinking that you may never talk to or see your friends again?
I don't know. It was just like, I was freaking out, but there wasn't anything I could do.
Mm-hmm.
So I was just like, well, I guess I can just sit here and hope for the best.
So did you get to know the transporters at all? I mean, it sounds to me like you went a pretty good ways, right? From Maryland to Georgia, I think you said. You ended up in a place in Georgia. So that ride, I'm assuming, was at least, 12, 15
Oh, yeah.
hours, if not more. And did you get to know these people at all?
I remember they had bought me Chick-fil-A.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't eat because my stomach was so upset. But I had to go to a doctor's appointment, like a physical, because they have to check up on you before you go to the program, which I thought was weird that you're doing this an hour away, because, like, what if something was wrong?
Mm-hmm.
But I had, like, spent time in the office with the lady, because she had to be with me while I was, like, getting checked out. Like, I couldn't be left alone at all.
So you didn't even make it to Georgia before you had to have some kind of exam.
Mm-hmm.
So was that exam in Maryland, do you think? Or?
No, it was, like, an hour away from Georgia.
Oh, I see. So before you even got to Georgia,
Yeah.
you stopped at some kind of medical facility or
Yeah,
something?
it was, like, a clinic.
Okay.
Yeah.
And did it seem like the people in the clinic, this happened all the time, or does this seem like it was new to them as well? Or
So I think that I was supposed to get this physical before, because my dad had set up an appointment, but I didn't go to it. And I think because of that, they had to take me. And the doctors, like, I mean, everybody around me, especially, they were all kind of just like, why is this lady with her that's wearing all black in a transport uniform? Like, you could tell, like, people were giving looks, like, either I was in trouble or, like, some type of celebrity. I don't know.
the exam, the medical exam, was it like a normal medical exam that you'd experienced?
Yeah,
Or
I mean, it was just a physical, but
okay.
it was weird because at the time, like, for the past week before, I had, like, really swollen eyes. And I don't know if it was, like, a little allergic reaction or, like, something was happening. So, like, I asked them about it, and they were like, we can test you for COVID, but we don't know what that is. And I was like, okay, like, you can't tell me while I'm here. So I never found that out, but yeah, I had really swollen eyes.
So just a normal physical, and then the ride to the facility was relatively uneventful. I mean,
Yeah, I was asleep for most of it.
yeah, and the people, it sounds like, were pretty nice as you, I mean, could be to be a
Yeah.
complete stranger kidnapper. Did you ever learn their names or learn anything about them? They just kind of remained quiet, pretty much.
Yeah.
Wow.
The lady was trying to keep me calm too, because she was like, I do this a lot, and if you want to vape, you can bring a vape.
Okay.
And I was like, I don't do that, but interesting.
Yeah.
And so we get into the car, and she's like asking me if I want to hit hers, and I'm just like, is this, like, real? Like, what's
Right.
going on? It just seems so unreal that, like, I was in shock.
Yeah, because I'm imagining the kind of behavior that you may have thought got you sent away to begin with.
Yeah.
And yet the people who are supposed to be changing you
And
were
they're letting
asking
me
you to vape. Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you know whether or not these people who were taking you to this undisclosed location were part of that location, or if they were just hired to, like,
They-
taxi you there?
Yeah, they're just hired. So the boarding school or whatever program, they hire this certain company to do it, and it's usually like them two or like two other people that do the transportation.
You get up and get back in the car and drive the rest of the way
Yeah.
to the facility. Now describe to me what it was like when you first got to this facility. You're looking out the window of the car and
Yeah.
you're driving into this facility in Georgia.
We turned onto like this dirt road after being on a highway for however long. And I just remember I'm like, where, like, cause you couldn't see anything except for like the rocks and the dirt floating in the air. I was just like, okay, this is weird. And eventually we turned into this like, little like cul-de-sac. It wasn't even a cul-de-sac. It was just like an area where you could park. And there was probably like, I'm trying to think, maybe like 3 houses they looked like, and then a portable classroom looking, a barn, and like this huge field where there was like horses and basketball, like a old basketball court, and then there was more houses down the street. But the like thing was, the houses like were offices. They just looked like houses. So I think like 5 staff members came outside and they got me out of the car, and they're like linking with me, like they wouldn't let go of me. and they take me into this office and they start doing like this intake, and they start telling me like, okay, this is where you are in Georgia. You're going to be here for a year. You won't be able to contact anybody. You can't talk to your parents for a month. And you have to link with staff members. You have to wear sandals when your first like week here until you get like a privilege to wear shoes. What else was there? You can't talk to people one-on-one. There has to be somebody listening. You're not allowed to be left alone. We have 6-minute showers. We have like 3 minutes to get ready outside of the shower. You get consequences, which is either like workouts or meal replacements. Those were the worst. Yeah, there was a lot of privileges, but I can't really think of all of them right now. But it was bad. At nighttime, you couldn't wear pants because they were afraid of you running away.
So they thought if you didn't have pants on, you wouldn't run away.
Yeah.
Because it would be, too embarrassing to be outside without them?
Mm-hmm.
Where would you run anyway if you didn't really know where you were?
I don't know. I guess, like, there was a few people that did run away.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, on the big pasture that was, like, open, you could, like, you would, like, fall down, like, a hill type of thing, but it led to a highway.
I got you.
Yeah, but they always told us, like, this is the highway where, like, all the sex trafficking happens. So they would, like, tell us not to do it.
Oh, so it kind of scared you into staying there.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, I'm struck by the different kinds of ways in which these facilities will implement these control measures. I haven't heard of that one, the taking away your pants at night. So
yeah, and they do pocket checks too.
now you wore shorts, or you're talking about like you're in your panties?
Like, you wore panties.
Wow.
Yeah.
And that was like at bedtime, or
Just
okay,
bedtime.
So just bedtime. Yeah. What was the sleeping arrangement like? I mean, were you in with multiple people in the same room, but you got your own bunk, or?
Yeah, so it was bunks. It was a cabin. There was probably like 6 bunks in one cabin. So there was big cabin and small cabin. The small cabin, I think there was like 4 bunk beds. It didn't matter. Like, they just separated randomly. And then we would each have our own bunk, and like there would be 2 staff members that slept on the floor, but they had like a mattress to pull out.
And they slept in there with you, obviously. 'Cause
Yeah.
you couldn't be anywhere without a staff member around.
Yeah. And they
So-
would like lock up our shoes too.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So they want to make it as difficult as possible for you to run. Tell me about like just, navigating in space, right? Like, so a typical day, you wake up in the morning when you want to, or is there an alarm? Do they wake you up? Like, what's a typical day? Take me through.
So it depends. On a weekday, we would probably wake up at like 5:30 a.m. and some of us would. It would switch groups, but some of us would walk up to the ag center, which is where like all the animals were and stuff like that, and we would feed them at 5 in the morning, and it's dark outside. So we would do that, and then we would go to the shower house, and we would have our 6-minute showers. We would get ready for school, go to the cafeteria, eat breakfast, and then go to the classroom and just wait until the teachers get there. A lot of people there did take medication, so they would like go around the classroom and give out meds.
Yeah. But nothing was private, right? Like, you knew who was getting meds, you knew how often, you knew what they were probably taking.
Yeah.
I've heard stories about even people who don't need meds oftentimes end up on meds when they're in these facilities, because it's just easier, again, to control people if they're taking meds. Do you remember that at all? People having to take them when probably they didn't, or they never had taken them?
Yeah. Actually, for me, so the place I was in was actually like they didn't like meds. They did it for people who really needed it.
Okay.
I was on meds before I went there, but I don't think they helped me at all, because they made me like extremely depressed compared to like how I was in reality. So when I went there, I was like, I'm not taking these. And
they were okay with that?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So this, for you, was an opportunity to see how you would do off the meds.
Yeah.
And you felt like
it
was right for you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, what was the worst part? What's the part that you want people to know about?
I feel like it's probably not the worst part, but the work projects were probably the worst, because it's like you're there and they're telling you like, oh, this builds character, and you're just like doing work all the time, like working on for other people, like at their houses, like doing all their farm work, taking care of their animals. Like it's basically like you're like a maintenance team for them. And that was like, it was weird because it's just like, why are we girls like doing this? Like, and the guys they would have their work projects too. Supposedly they were way worse, but it was still a lot of work.
Yeah. You had to be curious, right? Like, what is all the work doing for me? Like,
And they would,
how is this therapy?
yeah, and they would always say, we're just building character. It's like, but I'm like out here chopping bark off of trees.
Yeah.
Like, what is this? No. And then also, I was allergic to the hay and like danger from the animals. So I was taking Benadryl every day, which is probably not good.
Right.
But I was, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you live with how many? 6, you said? At least at night, you live with 6?
Yeah, at night it was like 6, but throughout the day, it was, I think the most while I was there was 17 girls.
Wow.
Yeah.
And did anybody get to leave early, or is pretty much everyone's going to stay there for the year minimum?
There was a girl that left early. It wasn't by choice. She kept getting into fights with staff members.
Gotcha.
And I think her last fight, she had a pen and stabbed like the staff member in the leg a few times. So they were like, all right, like you become dangerous at this point. Like you need to leave. So they sent her home.
Right.
But most parents won't take their kids out because they don't get refunded. And it's $100,000 for that year. So
How often did you see your parents while you were there?
I think I saw them 8 times because the visits, like the first time you visit, they come for 1 day and they spend like 8 hours on campus with you. And then it goes to two 1-day visits where like you get to leave campus, and then you get a 2-day one, and then you have like overnights where you stay the weekend with them, like but in the area. And I think that happens like 2 or 3 times. And then you have your home visits. Those usually don't happen until 10 months, but since I was only there for 10 months, they let me do it for the last visit. But yeah.
And you were 17, you said, when you went, and I guess finished high school there, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then after that, I mean, did they say, look, you're graduating, you're cured, you're a completely different person now? Or did you get the feeling that, okay, I'm aging out, I'm 18 and I have to leave?
Yeah, it was more I was aging out. They didn't want me to leave, though. They wanted me to stay till July. They just weren't, they didn't think I was ready to leave. And it's because, it's not a funny story, but I had ran away. When I had like got back from my home visit. I flew to Atlanta and then I ran. So I was gone for like a week, and then my dad was like, you have 18 days left. Like, just
go finish them.
Yeah, so.
Wow. That's amazing.
They definitely would have kept me for longer, though.
Now, did you hear any stories from anyone else that was at your facility that had done more than one stay, or had been longer than a year, or had been other places?
Yeah, one of my good friends there, she had been there since she was 12, and she was my age.
Oh, my gosh. So 5 years.
Yeah, and then there was another girl, she had, like, left probably a few months after I had gotten there. She was there her entire 12 to 18, and then one of the, like, there was quite a few girls that had been there from, like, 12 to, like, 18, because that's the age range you could be there for. But yeah, a lot of girls were definitely in other facilities too. Like their parents would start them at like 3-month facilities and then work their way up to where we were at. But this was my first time.
Yeah. So would you recommend someone send their kid to this place?
No, because the success rate of what I've seen out of the people I went there with is very low. There's probably 2 people out of the 17 girls that I was there with that are actually doing well right now. And most of them have become drug addicts. They're not doing well. They've been kicked out of college. They're homeless. They're stripping to make money, like that type of thing. So it's very, like, you meet these girls and, like, you think, like, okay, everybody's going to be good once we leave because we're doing so, like, we build really good relationships with these girls. And then, like, once you get out, you're just like, what happened? Like, why
You don't have,
why am I okay and they're like addicted to heroin right now? Like, what's going on? It's crazy.
Why do you think that is?
I don't know. I feel like being there, you get a big FOMO. Like, oh my gosh, I'm missing out on so much. So when I go home, I need to overindulge and catch up to everybody. And it's just like, you're like trying to fit so much in such a short amount of time that you fall in the wrong places.
What else, Kelly?
I don't know. I mean, it was just, for me, it was, I would say I hated it a lot, but I'm glad that I met the people that I did. That's probably like the biggest advantage. There were people there that I didn't like, of course, because there's always that type of thing. But a lot of them, it was like, I don't know, I guess I just built good relationships. But it's funny because leaving, you don't talk to anybody.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you. You know, you said you were wondering like how, or some people like myself, okay, and others addicted to heroin. But at the same time, you had built such strong friendships and bonds with some of these girls, right? And then when you leave, you're just kind of, you're gone from each other's lives.
Exactly.
Right? Have you tried to reach out to any of the people that you were in with? Have you maintained a friendship with any of them?
I've talked to a few. Most of them, I mean, like I said, like the people I was close with, like they're just not doing well in life. So like I get that occasional text when they're like finally like in the right mind.
Coherent,
like,
yeah, but it's hard to stay consistent with them.
Yeah, and it's really just on social media. I don't know. I mean, yeah, you just don't really talk to anybody anymore, and it's weird. But it's also like Georgia was the meeting spot, but people were from all over America.
Yeah.
So
it wasn't like they were from Georgia necessarily.
Yeah, or from Maryland, where I'm from. Like nobody was from there, so I didn't. Everybody was like, majority was like North Carolina, South Carolina, Florida, and California.
Yeah. So it wouldn't have been easy when you did leave to meet up.
Yeah,
like you're still separated by multiple states.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so you leave the facility in June, I guess, or no, in May.
Yeah, in May.
After 10 months there. What happens after that?
Well,
do you go back and live with your parents? Are you pissed with them? Like how does that work?
I did go to live with my parents. We had our covenant, which was like a list of rules and expectations. When I get home, I had a gab phone, which was
covenant. Yes, back up. Tell me what do you mean by this?
So basically, like we had to, in our therapy sessions, we would have family therapy every 2 weeks. And we would get on a Zoom call, and basically it was like a contract of how I'm supposed to act and what I'm supposed to do when I get home. And if I break this covenant, I can be kicked out or in trouble type of thing. So we like made this like, I guess my dad made it, and they showed it to me, and I was supposed to like agree to it, or we could make compromises. He like, it seemed, I don't even remember what the covenant was. I have it printed out somewhere. But it wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. So I kind of was just like, okay, like I'm coming home. I don't care.
I can do whatever.
Yeah. I got home, and I probably stayed home for about a month. And my dad and my stepmom, they were like, "You're hanging out with your old friends again. This isn't okay." And I was like, I don't have any other friends. Like these are my people. They have been since I was in elementary school. And they're like, well, you can't live here if this is what you're doing. So my stepmom was like, eventually my dad wasn't like doing anything. So my stepmom was like, if you don't leave, I'm leaving.
Oh, man.
So I was like, okay, I'm not going to do that to my dad. So I moved out, and I stayed with the friend that I was staying with before I got sent away.
Oh, wow.
And I probably lived with her for about like 5 months. And then when school started, my dad let me move back home. But yeah, it was interesting. I got to like tell people my story. A lot of people thought that like I got sent away because I was pregnant, or they thought that I just didn't like people, so I like cut everybody off. Like there was a lot of interesting stories that people had thought while I was gone, because I couldn't communicate with any of them while I was away.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now, you said Gab phone. Talk about this. Was this part of the covenant, or like was this the transition back into like normal life?
Yeah, the program provides these Gab phones for free, and they highly recommend it. They like push it on your parents, like you have to do this for a year or your kid is going to be back to normal. And it's really just a phone where you can only text and call. There's no social media, no internet, anything. So my parents were obviously convinced, and they got the phone. I never used it.
Mm-hmm.
I had like a bunch of trap phones from before when I got sent away. So I logged into those, and I was just like, okay, I'll act like I'm using the Gab phone, but in reality, I have these. So
That you can still talk to your friends.
yeah,
Go on social media.
mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I just stay with my grandma.
Yeah. Well, that is cool. It sounds like you wouldn't call it a success story necessarily, but it's probably more successful than it is for most. Would you say that?
Yeah, for me, yeah.
But would you necessarily say that because of the program you were in, it made you who you are today, or do you think you would have pretty much been the same person no matter what?
I think it definitely shaped me into who I am today, and I get like another story to tell, and hopefully get out there one day and, you know, try to change people's lives in some way, because, you know, it's an interesting story. Not a lot of people go through it, and having something like this to be able to talk about is just like, it can be life-changing for some people. Every time I tell somebody, they're always like, you're lying, like this needs to be a movie, it's not real. So yeah.
So what are your plans for the future?
To be an author and a podcaster one day. Right now I'm in school to like become a neonatal nurse.
Okay.
But this is my thing. So I've always had like a plan A, plan B, plan C for careers. It's cosmetology is C, and then the nurse for B, and A was the podcast and author.
I see. Smart.
Yeah, so I've done my plan C. Now I'm like doing plan B, and I think the reason why is because I'm scared to do the plan A first.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of just like feeling things out until
That's
I
probably
get
smart.
there.
Yeah, this is definitely my plan like Z.
Yeah. Yeah, so.
Which is why I've been doing this while also doing my other plans, right? I didn't start this one until 2 years ago. So I was 25 years into my other plans before I even started the podcasting one.
Yeah.
But I would recommend that you start a lot earlier than I did.
Okay.
Don't wait 25 years before you actually start, because it's actually not that difficult to start. You don't need all the fancy equipment that I have to start.
Yeah.
I guess I thought I did need all that. So I waited until I'd saved a lot of money and spent 25 years doing other things that I didn't necessarily love doing before I actually ventured into this. But if I were to do it again, I would just turn my phone on and start recording.
Okay.
And yeah, we can talk about that as well, how you get started.
Yeah.
Because it's a lot easier than you think, as long as you know someone who's already been doing it and can tell you straight like how to do it and not have to spend a lot of money.
Okay. Yeah.
Well, Kelly, thank you so much for doing this with me today.
Thank you.
I do
for
appreciate
having
it.
me.
And I may have you back sometime in the future.
Okay.
Or maybe you'll have me on your show one day.
Yeah. Very true.
Cool deal. Thanks, Kelly. And thank you guys for listening.